Algebra 2. In this video and in this lesson, we'll be going over how to identify turning points, relative maximums, and relative minimums on graphs. And we'll also be looking at tables and kind of figuring out how the graph is behaving. So we'll figure out end behavior from tables as well. So let's go ahead and just start identifying some vocabulary that we'll be using throughout this lesson. If you need to, pause this video at any moment to take whatever notes you need. Okay, so what is a turning point on a graph? So turning points on a graph are where the graph goes from increasing to decreasing or from decreasing to increasing. So it's where the graph is changing direction. It's a turning, it's where the graph is turning for lack of a better term. So it's exactly what it's defined to be. When the graph goes through turning points, we either end up with a relative maximum or a relative minimum. So a relative maximum is when the graph goes from increasing to decreasing. And a relative minimum occurs when the graph goes from decreasing to increasing. So let's look at an example on a graph. So here's just a quick sketch that I have drawn out on my coordinate plane. You can pause the video and do the same. So as we look at the graph and we read it from left to right, just like we read a book, we can see here that this first part of the graph is decreasing. And then here is where one of our first turning points occurs. And then from here on up to this point, it's increasing. And then from that point and then back down, it is decreasing again. I'm going to shorthand here. And then it goes up one more time. So this part of the graph that I just highlighted in green is increasing. And then it goes back down. So from here and then from then on, it is decreasing. And so we've got some special turning points on the graph, and I'll highlight them or I'll point them out in blue here, and hopefully they'll come out. There we go. Oh, I don't know. Well, that red one is going to keep coming out. And one more. Okay. And so the points on the graph that go from increasing to decreasing are going to be relative maximum. So the points that I'm about to highlight in green, these are relative maximums because these points are in between points where the graph goes from increasing to decreasing. So these are relative maximums. The points on the graph that go from decreasing to increasing are known as relative minimums. So the points that I'm about to highlight in yellow are relative minimums. And so we've got two of each. And if we were to ask you a question of how many total turning points are there on the graph, well, there are 4 total turning points because we've got 2 relative maximums, relative maxes, and we've got 2 relative minimums. Okay, let's go ahead and try a couple examples together. In the next example, we'll be looking at reading a table.